basically says that I'm not bashing the self-help industry. I'm not saying to not go and learn. I have so much. Here we go. Disclaimer. I'm not saying that the consumption of self-help material is bad. I've gained tremendously from the self-help industry. The problem isn't the consumption.
This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey, you. Yeah, just you. So my curiosity question is, have you ever read a self-help book, saw an inspirational movie, or been to a Tony Robbins seminar and been absolutely pumped up to change your life? And then it comes time to actually finally get the opportunity where you get to change your life, and then you don't. Maybe the moment slips through your fingers, or you kind of just let it go. If this is so, I want to first let you know that you're not alone. Okay, so let me set the tone. Let's say you've been consuming some podcasts or some really inspirational self-help books, and they teach you how to be quote unquote happy, or how to do this thing called life. And so you start to pursue happiness and you start to pursue all the things that you really want in life. But oddly enough, these inspirational podcasts aren't really helping. They aren't helping at all. If this at all is resonating with you, then this episode is definitely for you, because my guest today is Daniel Gefen. And honestly, Daniel has a very interesting way of looking at life and self-help. He's a self-help addict, entrepreneur, and also the host and creator of Can I Pick Your Brain podcast, a #1 rated iTunes podcast. And as I mentioned before, he is the writer of the Self-Help Addict book, in which he wrote because, honestly, he had to. There was no other book for him to write. And so without further ado, I'd like to give you a warm welcome to a super awesome podcaster and awesome author, Daniel Gefen. Hey, Daniel, man, thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Yeah. Hey, Logan, how you doing?
Good, man. Wow, yeah, I discovered your podcast, and you're an incredible interviewer, and the way you perceive life is a very, I would say, the way you give advice, I would say, is very counterintuitive.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anything that's
Absolutely.
not normal, that's usually where I end up trying to go, because normal is boring. It's just too boring for me. So I've always got to do something different. Yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah, I love it. So the mission of the show is really to make people feel less alone, and to also scratch their own itch by solving a problem that they have in the only way they know how. And I would love to talk about your story, but
Yeah.
I'm sure we could talk about your story for hours. But I'd like to kind of just start off with what are you curious about in life?
Well,
What's
right
really
now,
interesting you
what's
lately?
curious, what's piquing my interest is a mosquito. There's a mosquito sitting on the wall right now, and I'm looking at him and I'm telling him, if you bloody take a bite out of my skin, I'm going to kill you. Right? And the interesting thing is that there's a reason for what I'm saying. Scratch your own itch. Yeah. And I live in Israel, the Middle East, really hot. And let me tell you, when I hear the word scratch your own itch, all I can think of is these blinking bastard mosquitoes that and the worst thing of all is I don't even mind that they take my blood because you know what? I've got lots of blood to give. But hey, fella, let me give you a bottle of blood and leave me the hell alone. Like, get off my cake. Like, stop leaving me with all these marks. I've got to sit there scratching away like crazy. You can't scratch it because if you scratch it, it bleeds. So you gotta scratch around it, right? You can't exactly hit and I can't tell you how many times I've been sleeping at night and suddenly you hear that buzzing sound in your ear. Zzz, zzz. That's like the worst thing in the world. Just let me sleep. I'll leave you a whole bucket of blood. Just leave me alone. Anyway, I needed to get that off my chest. So that's my itch that I just need to scratch with these mosquitoes. I'm glad I did that. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it feels good to breathe, right? Feels good to breathe and let it out and yeah, finally
Yeah.
scratch your own itch. What else are you
Well,
curious about in life?
on that same line of thought, I just want to also describe the feeling of actually killing a mosquito. And I'm sorry for those of you listening who are, animal rights, whatever. I hear that fine. A mosquito's not really like it's. How do I describe a mosquito? It's not an animal. It's just a annoyance. Like that's it. There's humans, there's animals, there's plants, and then there's annoyances, right? A mosquito's annoying. So when I smack a mosquito and I see the blood just suddenly splashed all over the wall, it just feels so good. You know what I mean? It's like one less mosquito in the world. It's just that feeling of just squashing that mosquito. Now, I'm actually saying this because I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm on the spot right now. I don't know what I'm going to say next, which is where I love to be, by the way, in life. I love being in this space where I don't know what's going to happen next, and that's what's exciting. You see, everybody, I feel like we all need to plan out our life. Like, give me the freaking book. Tell me what needs to happen in the next 50 years of my life. Plan out my funeral, for crying out loud. That's not fun. That's boring. Who wants to live life like that? Imagine if I came to you and I said, hey, Logan, guess what? You know, when you were born, an angel dropped a book down from heaven and it told me exactly what you need to do, step by step, every single day. You're going to wake up and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And pretty much gives you your whole life completely outlined for you. Would you really honestly want to read that book? Would you really want to live your life according to a book? Come on. Like, who really wants that? And yet, everybody says that that's what they want. But they don't. They don't really want that. The most exciting things in life happen in the moment when it's least expected, when it's kind of like, oh my goodness, that just happened. When you fall in love, you don't plan to fall in love. And it's the most incredible feeling for those of you listening that have fallen in love before, right? And the same thing goes for anything that just happens just randomly. Random acts of kindness that someone does for you out of the blue, a complete stranger just like risks their life for you or they put themselves out for you. It's just a random thing that was not planned for. And those are the moments that are like, that's life. You realize that in those moments, you're really living, right? So what the hell has this got to do with mosquitoes? So let me take it back to mosquitoes for a second, because scratching your own itch, I feel like when you find the mosquito, because what's really cool is that mosquitoes are very smart, right? They look dumb, these things, but they're actually really, really smart. And trust me, I know because I've had experience with them. Because when you try to find them, right? So I'm lying in bed and the lights are off, and suddenly there's that, right? And it's like, oh God, where is that? And you switch on the lights and you're in the middle of a good sleep and you're like, oh God, now the lights are on, they're so bright you can barely see and you're squinting, but you got to find the sucker. Because if you don't find him or her, right? For those, right? If you don't find them, then you're not going to sleep at night. Because what happens is that you look for it, right? And then of course you give up and you go back to, you switch off the lights and you go back to sleep. And of course 5 minutes later, and you're like, ah, you get up again. And I've had this, like, trust me, I actually remember one time where I literally couldn't find the damn thing. And so I gave up. I waved the white flag. I said, you know what? You can have my room. You won. You won. And I basically slept in the living room. So the point is that they're very smart and they hide from you and you got to find them. But when you do, and you smack that mosquito and it's just like, oh, sensational. Finally, I did it and you can go to sleep now. I feel like that's kind of in life is like those goals that you set for yourself, right? Those things that you want to achieve in life until you actually hit them, until you actually get it, you're going to always have that discomfort. You're always going to be running around trying to search for it. You're always going to hear that bzzz in your ear. It's going to bother you. And you're going to have that itch. That's what this show is all about. That itch that you just want to scratch, but you can't. But when you scratch an itch, oh, right? That's how it feels like. When we scratch an itch, we go, oh, it feels so good, right? That's the whole thing about my book, The Self-Help Addict. It's all about finally realizing that you can take action, and that once you take action, the feelings will follow, and it feels so good. It feels so good when you scratch your itch. Am I making any sense? so, so like it kind of just went off there.
Hey, Logan Tyler Nelson here. I would so appreciate it if you took some time to hit the subscribe button. I really want to just honestly live and give. Why? Because I was told when I was young that if you're feeling down, the best way to feel better is by lifting someone up again. So in an effort to make someone feel less alone, please hit the subscribe button so the podcast has a better chance of being found and making someone feel less alone. And if you're feeling down, hey, it can help you. Know that by hitting that subscribe button, you just did someone a huge favor. So thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Yeah. Oddly enough, you are. You're actually seriously making more sense than I think we were ready for. I don't even think you were ready for. I don't even think you were ready for it. You just kind of went but it shows
No.
The way that you operate in the world is not by a how-to book anymore. You are now creating it in the moment. And Johnny Depp, he once answered on Inside the Actor's Studio. He was asked what his favorite word was, and he said surprise. And that's because he said life is boring without surprises. But inside of our head, we think that we love surprises. There's only a few that actually love surprises, that are ready to be in the moment, that are ready to lose the line, that are ready to go, I don't know what the line is, I'm just gonna make it up. And we live now in an abundance of how-to books, and an abundance of how-to YouTube videos, and an abundance of how-to online courses, when the only way to really learn is by taking action, like you said, and just going forward and trying and failing. And that's what I really gotta talk to you about is what do you think changed and made this shift? Because I know for a fact you were that self-help addict. You were the person that was always reading more and taking more courses. When did you just stop doing that? And actually, was it from your podcast? Do you think your podcast was a huge contributor of you to do this, or what do you think?
No, it's interesting. The podcast helped. Like, doing the podcast helped because here's the thing: is doing anything helps. Once you do the thing that you dread doing, you realize how the fear was based on nothing, right? Most fear is based on nothing. And once you actually take action, once you do whatever it is that you are afraid of doing, you look back and you just think, what was the big deal? Like, it's always a big deal until you do it, and then it's not a big deal anymore, right? You ask most successful people, and it could be it could be a a successful athlete, business person, actor, actress, whatever industry you want to take, and you take a successful person and you ask them if it's a big deal for them to do what they do. They don't think it's a big deal. It's like, big deal, I get on the football field, I play, and I it's not a big deal for me, right? It's not a big deal, I get on a podcast and I just do my thing. Like, but everybody else thinks it's a big deal because they haven't done it. So, but once you've done the thing, it doesn't become a big deal anymore. And the more you do things, the more things you realize are not a big deal. And the more you realize that most things aren't a big deal, the more you're able to go and do more. So there's this cycle that you kind of get into, which you can call it momentum, right? Or you can call it compound interest in it, right? You become better. You become better at what you do, right? My first business took me 4 years to become profitable. I went through so many, I can't even begin to describe how many fires I had to put out and how many lessons I had to learn the hard way. But now my most recent business, I've made more money in the first 3 months than I made in the first 4 years of my first business. But that comes with experience. It comes with learning. It comes with just jumping in, just doing it. Most people want to prepare. They want to plan. They want, they need more information, more information, more information. There's abundance of information. And information isn't what you need. It's action. Action is what you need. I had a billionaire on my show, and I asked him, I said to him, there's only 2,000 billionaires in the entire world. Like, that's incredible that you're one of 2,000 people in the entire world. Like, you're a billionaire. How did you do it? Like, what makes you different to everybody else? And he said to me, Daniel, I have a sign in my office that says the following. It says, ideas are welcome here, but execution is worshipped, because it's all in the execution. Everyone had the idea for Uber. Everyone had the idea for Facebook, and everyone had the idea for Netflix, right? Everybody had the idea after.
Yeah,
You watch
that's a great
Shark
show.
Tank or Dragon's Den, Logan? Yeah, I love watching Shark Tank, Dragon's Den. And how many times when someone comes on the show, and they pitch an idea, and you're like, oh man, I thought of that idea. Like, oh, I had that idea, right? I hear it all the time. And the thing is it doesn't matter if you had the idea. What matters is if you actually took action and did something about it. That's it. How many people have told me when they saw my book, they said, The Self-Help Addict, wow, it's such a genius thing. Like, I've always thought about that. Yeah, Self-Help Addict. There's nothing new about what I'm writing in my book. There's nothing necessarily unique other than my personal story that I go very deep into. But the difference between me and so many other people who had the idea to write such a book is I actually got down and did it. I got dirty and I did the work, and now I have a book to hold in my hand that I could be proud of. And that's the difference. It's the difference between being a consumer and a creator. I don't want to be a spectator of life. I want to be a player. I'm here to play. I want to be involved. I go to places like, I'll go to a conference, or I'll go to like let's say I go to I don't know, an event, right? I want the front row seat. I'm always the guy to run to the front and get the front row seats. I notice these people who they kind of like, I don't know, it's like the front four rows are empty, but they, for some reason, they like the middle seat or the back seat in the class or the back seat in the room. Like, you know, people at a networking event, they might like stand on the side there, kind of like holding a cocktail, waiting for someone to come to them. Like, dude, you need to get in there. Like, if you don't get in there, if you don't get up, take that front seat, if you don't get in, if you don't become the party, then you're just going to watch everybody else do it. And at the end of your life, you're going to look back and you're going to say, you know what? I watched it, but I didn't play it. I didn't play the game of life.
That immense
And I
amount
wish
of
I did.
regret. Wow. Yeah, that hurts. The thing I want to touch on though is there is bad ideas, right? So how do you distinguish
Yes.
which ideas to execute and which
Yes.
ideas to not execute?
Yeah, you don't. The simple answer is you don't. Here's the thing. Let me give you two guys, okay? Bob and I don't know, and Tom. Bob and Tom. Those are just the two names that came to my mind. So Bob, what he does is every idea he has, he goes out and he gets 100 different opinions and he writes out a whole plan, and he, you know, really like spends a lot of time researching the industry and like really getting, you know, all the you know, the ducks in a row, as they say. I'm just getting my ducks in a row. I hate that. My ducks in a row. What does that even mean? Right? So he gets his ducks in a row, and that process maybe takes him, let's say, 6 months, right? And but that's for every idea he has, it takes at least 6 months until he's ready to go and actually execute. Now, the truth is that the ideas that are worthless, that don't work, he won't waste time with them, right? He'll go, you know, 6 months and he'll have the idea and he'll know whether it's good or not. Now let's go to Tom. Tom, on the other hand, he doesn't have time or patience for that. Like, he hates like all this planning and preparing and business plans and market research. And he's just, call him dumb. Yeah, call him a dumb guy. He's just dumb. He doesn't want to get into the nitty. And he just goes and takes action on all the ideas. And some of them are like most of them are just ridiculous. And people even laugh at him. They go, Tom, you're such an idiot. Jeez. And every time I see you, Tom, you've got another thing that you're doing. Like, what, like, come on, man, just stick to one thing. But here's the thing. Fast forward 3 years. After 3 years, okay, Bob has, like, you know, had some success, but he's like, you know, he's just about making it. Whereas Tom has been burnt so many times, but then this one thing, this one idea that he had, he executes it. And here's the thing, he executes it so fast that he's the first to market. Because whilst he is taking action, everybody else is doing their due diligence, right? Because there's so many more Bobs in the world than there are Toms. So because Tom is first to market and because he's there before everybody else, because everybody else is still getting their ducks in a row, he takes off. And the difference between a Bob and a Tom is that a Tom is more likely to come up with the Ubers of today, or the, you know, or the Netflixes of today, or the big ideas, the ones that really make it. And the Bobs, yeah, might get a successful business and may do well. But that analogy is just, again, I go to the extreme, and a lot of people will listen to this and they'll probably shake their heads going, oh, this guy's full of crap. Like, you need to do your you need to do your due diligence. You have to do your market research. Who the hell is this guy? What is he talking about? And all I can say is, you do you, I'll do me.
I love it.
And
no,
that's it.
You know what?
Very simple.
I really, 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 really want you to check out the book "I Am Keats" by Tom Aziger. Have you heard of it? I Am Keats.
I am what? I am?
Yep, dude, I'm gonna get it on audiobook,
Keats.
or I'll send it to you or something like that. Because honestly,
Okay.
dude, it is not exactly
Okay.
like what you're talking about, but very similar. And so to the point where like it's a paradigm shift. It's one of those sort of books you read and then you're released from the matrix kind of things. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and
I
it's a
like
short
those.
read, very fast. So check that out. But anyways, um, that's it's a very good point, and it comes down to yeah, exactly like how do you want to operate in the world? Do you want to keep planning and planning and planning and I guess okay, like it's a little unfair right now. Like the person who's listening to this and goes, okay, should I just shut this off then and stop listening and consuming information, or should I, or should I continue to listen and try to become better? Because let's face it, like
Mm.
some people probably now feel guilty when they listen to some of your stuff and they go, hey, Daniel, like I'm trying to support you by listening to you and consume, but you're telling me to go create and like, yeah, that might help.
Hmm.
My life. Yeah, let's bring this like let's talk
So
about this.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I knew this question would come up when I was writing the book, and that's why if you look at the first page of my book, I put a disclaimer. Right? There's a disclaimer at the beginning of my book in the introduction, and I'll even read it to you. Here we go. Where is it? Where is the disclaimer? Um, basically says that I'm not bashing the self-help industry. I'm not saying to not go and learn. I have so much. Here we go. Disclaimer. I'm not saying that the consumption of self-help material is bad. I've gained tremendously from the self-help industry. The problem isn't the consumption of information. The problem is the lack of action. We've been giving it. Okay, so I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but basically, my philosophy is that, and I talk about this in the book as well, is you should take action on the inspiration you have. So you should consume 100%. You should be consuming, you should be learning. That's the only way, like, to grow, you need to learn from others, right? If you only take action and you don't consume anything, you're a fool. You're a fool. Because there could be a book that you read that can take you, 3 years to figure out on your own, and somebody's given it to you and written it for you, right? There could be a YouTube video that could teach you how to do something that would take you years to figure out or to learn on your own. So you're a fool if you don't take advantage of the information that's out there. However, you're also a fool if you only consume and all you do is just watch YouTube videos all day long and read books and listen to podcasts and go to Tony Robbins events. Because then you're just basically, it's like being in your car and your handbrake's up and you've got your foot on the brake and you're pressing the gas and you're going, but it's not going anywhere. Yeah, dude, you gotta get into gear, right? You can't just hit the gas. So you should be reading, and let me give you let's get really practical for a second. So how do you do this practically? I'll tell you how. I was watching a movie, okay, and it was about a father and son, and it was one of these really emotional movies. The father and the son have this fight, and they don't speak to each other, and they go their separate ways, and the son grows up, and it's really sad. But right at the end, they get together, right? The son basically approaches the father, whatever, and there's this one scene at the end where they embrace, and I started to cry. I have tears down my face, and I feel all, just I feel like I want to call up my dad and tell him I love him. That right there, that moment, you have so much inspiration, and your blood is flowing that if you were to now make the decision to pick up the phone, you would do it. You would do it. But the problem is, most of us, we don't. We think it in our head, we feel it in our heart, but we don't take the action. And then what happens is, guess what? The movie ends, the music stops, and then you just go on Facebook and you just check your feed, or go for a jog or whatever, and it just dies down. You cool off. And what I'm trying to say in my book is don't let yourself cool off. Get inspired, take that energy, take that emotion, and then use it, channel it into action. Take action on it. Because when you don't and you cool down, it becomes much harder to take that action. You know, when you've watched a movie, let's say you've watched Rocky or one of these, you get so pumped up, right? Or it might be you watch a Gary V YouTube video and you're like, yeah, and he's like said this amazing idea and you're like, yeah, but then what happens is you just don't do anything about it. That's the issue. And so when you don't do anything, you just go and you go back for more inspiration. You keep going back for more inspiration and more information because you're not taking action when you need to take the action. That's the issue. When you read a book, I don't want people to read my book and then come back and say, wow, that was really inspiring. And then they just go and buy another book. Don't buy my book if that's what you're going to do, because I'm writing my book for the person who's going to read my book and they're going to stop. They're going to get to page, 32, okay? And they're going to stop at that page and they're going to close the book. They're going to put a bookmark in the book. They're going to close the book and they're going to go and take action because they feel in that moment that they can do it. That's what, pause that video, pause that YouTube video, go do something with that feeling. Close that book, go do something. You're listening to this podcast right now and you feel high and you feel like you got to go and take some sort of action. Pause the damn thing and go do it. Then you can come back to the thing. That's what I want. I would love, like my biggest dream is for people to say to me, Daniel, I didn't even finish reading your book. You know why I didn't finish reading your book? Because I just closed your book in the middle and I said, damn it, that's it. And I went and I started writing my own book. I went and I started my own podcast show. I went and I started my own business. I went and I did that thing that I've always dreamed of doing. That's my biggest dream. That's my goal. My goal is for someone to reach out to me and say to me, Daniel, I actually stopped in the middle of you talking, in the middle of one of your podcast episodes, and I went and I did something. That's the goal.
Hey friends, so let me ask you real quick. Are you someone who's trying to get more visibility? Who's trying to be in front of the crowd? Well, if that's you, I want to let you know that first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, if you want to get on more podcasts, or ones that actually scratch your own itch, meaning maybe you have a book, or a business, or maybe you do speaking, or if you don't yet do speaking, maybe you can, and maybe you'd love to. Well, I put something together for you, and in this little giveaway, I'm going to show you how to pitch yourself for podcasts and how to actually be professional when you show up so you can be the next authority in your niche, so you can start scratching your own itch. I know what it's like to build something, create something, and then there just be crickets. No one wants that. You need to be seen. You need to be heard because you have a message to share, a message that is worthy of hearing. Podcasts nowadays, more than ever, are being consumed by people. And guess who's actually learning the knowledge that's being shared? It's podcast listeners. It gives you a license to be an authority in whatever area you really dream of being an authority in. So if this at all starts to give you a little itch to scratch, just email Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. Again, that's Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. I love it, man. I love it. Seriously, through and through. That's what most books try to do and I think fail to do, because at the end of any self-help book, you'll realize it's all about self-love and self-appreciation, and sometimes you can't appreciate yourself until you start taking action on those huge ideas that you have and going, hey, I'm trying now. At least I'm trying. So, but
Well, it's interesting that you say self-appreciation, though, because that's something, I think that's something else. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that I was worried about when I wrote the book was I don't want people to think that if they just take action, then they're going to be fine. In fact, I actually almost scrapped my entire book about 6 weeks before I published it. I woke up one day and I said, oh my goodness, like, I need to scrap the book, because I feel like I'm giving people the wrong impression. Because the thing is that, here's the thing. Look how many successful people have committed suicide. Right? How many celebrities have you heard of who have overdosed? Like, why? Like, why would you do that? You got to the top of the mountain. You have all the money that you ever need. You've got all the fame. You can have anyone you want, right? Like, why would you take your life now? That doesn't make any sense. The thing is, though, if you look deeper into it, it makes total sense. And I'll explain why. Everybody starts on the bottom of the proverbial mountain. And what do? We all look up. We look up at the mountain, at the top, and we see these people up there and we go, wow, they're so lucky. Look at them. Wow, it's amazing. It must be so cool to be there, right? And whatever there is for you. So what do we have? We have hope. We have something called hope, and hope is what keeps us going. And we climb up the mountain slowly, and we fall down, we climb up, we fall down, but at least we have that hope. However, the other guy who made it to the top, he worked so hard, he finally got there, and guess what? He gets there and he still feels empty. And at that point, he realizes, oh my goodness, there's nothing here. There's no more hope. And he jumps off the mountain and dies. And when I realized that, I said to myself, I'm writing a book that's helping people climb that mountain, but they're going to jump off. I can't write a book like that. And I remember I called up my business mentor, and I called up my rabbi. I'm Orthodox Jewish. And I told them, I said, I can't write this book. And they said to me, no, Daniel, you're wrong. You've just written the first half of the book. You just now need to finish it. Everything you've said is true. You're helping them climb the mountain. That's the first step. The first step is getting up the mountain and climbing the mountain, getting into action. But then the next stage, which you haven't written yet, which that's what you need to do, is you need to talk about the fact that it's not all about climbing the mountain. Or actually, I rephrase that. It's not all about getting to the top of the mountain. And so what I did was I wrote a chapter called Being and Becoming. It's the balance between climbing that mountain, which is becoming, right? Becoming a better father, becoming a better mother, becoming a better spouse, becoming a better businessman, becoming a better member of society, becoming a better brother, becoming a better child, like whatever it is. Becoming, climbing that mountain. But it's also about just being. It's also about just being where you are, with what you have, with who you're with right now, and taking that in and appreciating it fully. It's climbing the mountain and then stopping and turning around and looking down the mountain and saying, oh my goodness me, look how far I've come. Look how far I've come. And then it's looking around and seeing where you are and saying, wow, look at the view. Right here, right now, look at how beautiful the view is. And then you turn around and you look back up the mountain and then you say, okay, let's go further. Let's climb a little bit more. But if you just climb and you don't take those breaks and you don't appreciate how far you've come and where you are right now, you will jump off the mountain, because what I said in my book was the journey ends up becoming sweeter than the destination. The journey itself, you realize in life that the journey itself becomes sweeter than the destination. If we're always looking to get to the end point, we will never get to the end point because it doesn't exist. And the more we just try to get to the end point, and we just, if I only get this, I'll be happy. If I only get that, I'll be happy. It will never happen, and you'll always be miserable. But when you realize that actually life itself, the climb, that is life. That is it. That's all there is. Then you realize that I can enjoy this. I don't need a struggle. I don't need to go crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's reframing it. It's reframing it from saying this is not a struggle, but it's a opportunity. It's experience that I want to have. I want to go experience what it's like to go and become that personal trainer that I've always thought about becoming. I want to experience and become the writer. And actually, you know, there's a great quote that I believe Mark Twain said. He said, you know, I think people say they want to be actors, or they want to be writers, or they want to be speakers, but I just wanted to write. And so it comes down to like just, you know, being able to live that and own up to it. And if you try it out and you don't like it, then change. You know, like you were saying earlier, you know in your heart, you know, to take action on that. But anyways, I could talk to you for 14 more hours. You've given
Yeah.
so much awesome. There's entertainment as far as like just heart throbbing feeling the feels. I mean, it's been a great roller coaster ride of a conversation with you. And but I want to get into scratching the surface curiosity questions, which is
Thank you.
just you know, you're not on a time limit, but definitely don't think too hard about these questions. And just
Okay.
lots of pressure,
No
Daniel.
pressure.
Lots of pressure. Your life's depending on it. So the first question I want to ask you, because I really admire your interviewing skills, and I know you've been interviewing people, and I just want to ask you, what person you wish you could interview, and who would that be, and what question would you want to ask them?
Okay, so I don't even have to think about that one. That's easy for me. The person I would want to interview is my grandfather. My grandfather passed away a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him when he was alive, because the way we humans work is we think that everyone lives forever and that everything's just going to be forever. And unfortunately, the sad fact is that nothing lasts forever. And you only realize how much you missed out when something's not there or someone isn't there anymore. My grandfather was, or is, I should say, is the biggest inspiration to me, um, purely for the fact that, you know, he was in the Holocaust, and his whole family was murdered in front of him. His parents, his siblings. He was about 13 at the time, 13, 14, and they shot everybody. In fact, he actually got shot as well, but he got shot and the bullet missed him. It hit him in the shoulder, and he fell to the ground and pretended to be dead. So he was essentially buried alive with all the bodies, and he waited till the coast was clear, and then he dug himself out. Um, there were so many stories of his survival. Um, you know, he was hung twice. Both times the sirens went off, and he managed to escape. And the most inspiring thing about him was that he never gave up, ever. He never gave up. And when he was liberated from from Auschwitz, he had nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean really nothing. Like, people nowadays, they think that they're suffering because the Wi-Fi is slow or they've got low battery on their cell phone. Okay. I'm talking about somebody who looked like a twig. Yeah, he was completely malnourished, had no food, didn't have a penny, not a dime, to his name, didn't have anybody who he could turn to. He had no family, nothing. He was literally uh, completely left to his own devices. And he didn't give up on himself. And he kept going and he pushed and he built a business and he ended up building a family. And he gave a lot of charity away. He gave about 80 to 90% of his money that he made. He was a wealthy man later on in his life, and he gave away all of his money. He kept very little for himself. And that's why he's the biggest inspiration to me. And I'd love to interview him, but I can't.
Wow.
It's too late.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's a really, really fine answer. I love it. And gosh. Okay. Well, I want to get on to the next question. That was
Yeah.
that was good. What's
Sure.
it's sort of a givings question. It's sort of, what's that one thought that you're having inside your head, or something that you're embarrassed or ashamed about, that you can make someone feel a little less alone about sharing?
Ooh, what am I ashamed about? Okay, here we go. I care too much. I actually care too much. I put on a very good act of not caring. Right? People look at me and they think, "Wow, this guy's so confident. He's so, But I really care. I really, really, genuinely care. When I post something on social media, like every single like and comment I get, I really cherish that, and I really care about what people think. And as much as I say that I don't care what people think, and I don't want to care what people think, and I tell people not to care what people think, at the end of the day, by nature, I really care. And I know that it's in a way a strength, and in another way it's a very big weakness. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's part of who I am. But I want people listening to realize that it's okay if you feel that way. It's okay to to care that much about what people think. As long as you just keep doing what you need to do because you feel it's the right thing to do, I would say don't worry about that voice in your head. Don't worry about that feeling that you get where it's like, but what will people think? Just do it anyway. You'll have those feelings. Don't be ashamed of them. Just do it.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard having a big heart, and but then again, Daniel, I'm gonna call you out, man, and say that's like asking someone in an interview, "Oh, what's your biggest weakness?" And they go, "I care too much." But I
No, dude. So I think no. So I'm glad. No, you know what? I'm really glad you pushed me on that because what you just said when you said you have a big heart, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean when I said I care too much. It doesn't mean I care about you. It means I care about me. I'm extremely selfish. I have so much. I'm telling you, one of my biggest weaknesses is I'm extremely selfish. I'm extremely self-centered. By nature, I care about me. When I say I care too much, I don't mean I care about you. It means I care about me. When I post on social and I get a like or a comment, I don't care about who likes me or who comments on it. It's just a number. It's just another, wow, I got 50 likes. It's for me. It's not for you. I care too much about me. That's the issue. And when I care about what you think of me, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with me. I care what you think about me because you're defining me by the very fact that what you think of me, but it has nothing to do with me, if you could follow me.
yeah, no, Thank you so much for clearing that up. Wow. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
there's the
I
weak.
totally, dude, you and me both. Like, that's the thing I kind of, when I talk to you
Right.
and when I listen to your podcast, I'm like, this guy is too much like me. I hate it. He was way too much like we're the exact same people. Maybe you will listen to my podcast and agree or disagree,
No, we're
but
not. Logan, we're not the
I'm
exact same people. No two people are
you
alike.
know,
You know
we
that.
think in similar ways. That's we're
There we go.
exactly. You're
That's
very
better.
right. Everyone is unique.
But by the way,
You
you see what I just did just there,
you were
Logan? You see
selfish
what I
in the
just
way that
did?
you wanted to be right.
I that was that was me. Exact. Not just be right, but how dare you, Logan, say that you're like me? There is no
Mm,
one like me. I'm unique. I remember I don't want to get too off tangent, but I remember I went to a therapist once and I told her some of my issues. She's like, yeah, everybody has that. I'm like, no, I'm the only one that has this issue. I'm special. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I want to be special. So when someone's like, oh, we're exactly the same, it's like, what? It's like when someone says, oh, you look exactly like your brother. No, I don't. No, I don't. I have my own identity. Right? Anyway, I don't want to get off topic,
no,
but
it's a
yeah, there you go.
solid message to bring up. But yeah, we get to we'll bring you back and we'll talk about that whole identity paradigm that people
Okay.
have to go through. And
Done.
you obviously have some very some issues of not, I guess issues is the wrong word, but experiences.
No, it's okay, dude. No, it's okay. I put myself out there. You can say I have issues. Call me an abnormal weirdo. It's fine. That's fine.
um anyways, we can laugh at this stuff because we know it's just Daniel's having fun, right? The next question I'd love to ask you
Too much fun.
is if you, Daniel, could just pick one quote to live by for an entire month, what quote would that be?
One quote. I need to live by this quote. Okay. What what other people think of you has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah,
That's the quote that
I love that.
I need
I
to
love
remember.
that. Okay, so just two more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Last question is anybody that's listening to this right now, like,
Yep.
or myself, and they listen to podcasts, and I don't want people to just keep listening to podcasts and then go to the next podcast and then the next podcast, and then they don't really
Yep.
take action and make friends or make someone their hero today by just Instagramming, Facebooking, or tweeting anything that I or Daniel said. How can they support Daniel in his goals and his aspirations?
Best way to support me is to support yourself and to take action and to come back to me and really tell me, something that you did. Whether it, like I said, whether it's you launched your own podcast show or you wrote your own book or you started your own band or whatever, right? Those are the kind of messages I love to get because that's why I wrote my book and that's why I talk
I
about what I
love
talk
it.
about.
That's dude. I love it.
Yeah.
Last question is do you wish I asked you a question or what else do you want to leave off on? And I feel like we covered a lot. So if there's any question though,
Yeah. No, the answer is no because I firmly believe that what you asked needed to be asked in this moment. That's what needed to be said, and the people listening to this needed to hear. Maybe there was just one person in the audience that just needed to hear something today that's going to transform their life in a positive way, and that's all that matters. That really is all that matters. So
so true.
no,
Thank you so much, Daniel. I'd love to have you back on a later
a
date. I had a
pleasure.
lot of fun and keep it up with your podcast and yeah, thanks again, man.
For sure. I'm gonna plug myself before you go, because because I'm that
Yeah, of
selfish
course.
guy, remember? So if if the listeners want to grab a copy of my book, it's called The Self-Help Addict. They can get it on Amazon.com or dot whatever, Amazon, and it's The Self-Help Addict. And if they want to subscribe to my show, my podcast show is called Can I Pick Your Brain?
I will put that all in the show notes. So if you're driving, if you're working out in the
Appreciate it.
gym, or if you're cleaning up the kitchen or vacuuming up your awesome dusty floor as you're listening to this and you can't write it down, it's there. But like Daniel said earlier, if you had that inclination of actually stopping this podcast earlier and you're coming back to it, isn't that so that's kind of Inception like, almost like, wow, I stopped something and I was like, I helped myself within helping myself by coming back again. So you're gonna help yourself more by getting Daniel's book and just becoming a huge subscriber of him, because he's up to big and better things each and every day. So thank you so much, Daniel. We'll leave it out there.
Yeah, thank you, Logan, and thank you everybody who's still here, who's still listening. Thank you very much.
All right, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to support the show by listening. The biggest compliment you could ever pay me is just by sharing this, because honestly, it doesn't take much, and it feels so good when people create something and take time. And when I see someone take time to create something that really just changed my day, either made me feel less alone, maybe put a smile on my face, made me laugh, made me feel wiser, I always want to share it with the world. Because why? When I share something that resonates with me, why not share it? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that goes around, and it's free. It takes no time at all other than just a click of the button, share, on either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Any of those social media platforms would be great to share this. So I really appreciate it. And I want to say that anybody who's looking to gain authority or expertise in their area, and they don't want to take another year or year and a half to write a book and wait until that's published, I think the best way is right now is to start a podcast. So if you're at all interested in starting a podcast, if you meet the certain requirements, I would love to help you with a podcast and also get a website going for you as well. And this is not an easy task. It's hard to actually get it done and get it out there. So every now and then we need some help, and I'm here for you. So please reach me at Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com if you're interested at all. And don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.